Good afternoon or good morning, depending on what time you're watching this video, but I should be talking to my fourth graders because you guys are awesome and I know that you can do this. I'm trusting you with the Chalk Pastel Realistic Self-Portrait Project. So I just did one just a few minutes ago before I started recording. I probably spent about 25 to 30 minutes on it from start to finish. Of course, I'm expecting you guys to take at least 2 classes, possibly 3. Here's my final outlook, and I could spend like a lot longer on this one. This one is just a rough, quick one. I could go back in here with my real serious like artist eye, and hopefully, guys, when you're taking a couple days of working in the classroom and you come in with it with fresh eyes, you can find new things to add and do. You are going to make this look as much like you as humanly possible because you're going to use a handy dandy mirror. Like, here's mine. Hi everybody, it's Miss Hopkins. I am doing a different point of view video for you so you guys can see my hands working and not have to look at my face the whole time, except you kind of do because I'm doing a self-portrait. And so are you. You're gonna get to use whatever color background you want. I recommend using a fun color that you like. Purple is my favorite color, so that's why I did a purple one. If I gave you a tour of the house right now, you'd find a lot of purple things here. But now I have a yellow piece, and I'm gonna do a totally new self-portrait with you real quick, and just kind of get started. I'm not gonna spend as much time on it as you need to, but we're gonna kind of review the parts of the self-portrait that you're gonna need to include nice and quickly. One thing you're not gonna see today is a pencil, except if I'm writing my name on my paper. For me, I like to do that part last in case I wanna flip the paper over and just start again, because you know you're not getting a new paper in this art room. Today you're gonna be using some Q-tips for blending. I've got one that I already used, so he's a little dirty, but I might use him again. I don't think you guys need more than 2. You're also gonna use a tissue. You probably only need 1 of these things. Half the time, I just end up using my fingers. I know they're really clean, but I just washed my hands, so they wouldn't look yucky for you on video. So no pencil drawing today. That means no erasing. So when you start this out, I want you to really look in the mirror and look at the shape of your face. Okay, you might want to pull your hair back to do that if your hair is down like mine is today. And I have a very ovally face. It's kind of long, and that's what I was trying to achieve here. In fact, I didn't even draw it long enough first. I had to keep adding more because I started to run out of room by the time I got down to my lips. I had no room for my chin. And I was like, well, that looks ridiculous. I need a chin. So I had to add some more. So I start out with like a skin color that's pretty close to mine. You can check by your hands. And once it's on the paper, it might look completely different. So this one's kind of a peachy color. And I'm gonna start out with an oval for my face, just kind of floating out in space. Start smaller because you can always go bigger from there. Now, I just learned, losing one of my Q-tips over here, that's okay, I'll track them down in a minute. I just learned that I needed to have my face a little bit longer, so I'm gonna leave some space. I think I'm gonna actually have to do a little bit longer because I'm looking back at my other picture and in my mirror. And I do have a pretty long face. I think that might work. Gonna include my neck, little shirt line. You might have room for shoulders, you might not. You can just use that skin color for that part. We'll add that later. So your basic skin color, you want to fill in the area pretty lightly. You don't have to get crazy dark. And on top of this yellow paper, this is looking a little pink. So if your color is coming out funny, you might want to try a different color with it. This one's kind of like a tan. It's like a yellowy color. So I'm gonna mix this guy in, just so I have a really good kind of chalk version of my face. Now it's gonna get a little dusty in here. you know not to smudge it with your fingers or blow it in somebody's face. Because if you start that business, it's gonna get taken away from you and you're not gonna get to the project. Don't be that kid. Be my cool kids. So I just use my tissue to just kind of fill in the space, soften it up. I'm not trying to wipe the color away as I'm trying to push the pigments into my paper. You guys have used chalk before, so you should know. If this is your first time using chalk, ask someone in the classroom if you're having some trouble. Because my students have been using chalk pastel from first grade on. So I've got lots of dust back here. I'm gonna turn it out of the way. Gave it a couple little puffs of air. And there I've got my face. Now today you're gonna be using a lot of neutral colors, like a tannish yellow, kind of this reddish brown, this dark brown, this peach. These guys are gonna be your main skin tones. And anytime you don't like something or a color's not coming right, just kind of smudge it away with your finger or your tissue. It's kind of like how we erase. You can cover up chalk with chalk with chalk with chalk all day long and have lots and lots of layers. So if you make something that you don't love, just cover it up. Nobody's gonna know unless you tell them. Okay, kiddos? So I'm gonna use this darker brown here just because it'll show up real well. And I'm gonna start putting in my face parts. Now you remember from way back in kindergarten when we started learning from the top of the head to the chin, you guys are gonna have your eyes right down here in the middle and your nose is gonna fall somewhere along that lovely line of symmetry. Okay, so if we split our face in half, we just folded the paper up, right down the middle is where your nose is gonna fall somewhere. Okay, so mine, I'm just gonna start just kind of like put an idea of where it should be. Hopefully I leave myself enough room for my mouth, but I probably didn't because that's just who I am. So I'm gonna put my eyes in, and I have very lemony almond shaped eyes. They are not very wide. My nose is pretty narrow, but I do notice that it curves around my eyes to where like an eyebrow will end up. So you can make those indications of that. I'm smudging my nose out a little bit because I can already see didn't have it as quite centered as I wanted. And then I'm gonna have my lips down here somewhere. Okay, so I'm just using a light brown to kind of figure out where that stuff's supposed to go before I get all crazy. When you figure out where your hair is supposed to go, you can decide if you want to have your ears showing or not. Me, I'm not going to have my ears showing because I have a lot of hair everywhere today. So I'm going to start out with just kind of placing my hair where it's supposed to be. I have a lot coming down over here and it's quite wavy today because I did not blow dry it straight, so it's kind of wild lady hair. And I like to kind of just put it on here first, so then it helps me not look like a bald person. Helps me see what my picture is gonna look like. And my hair has a lot of blonde and brown in it. So I'm using a lot of brown, and I'll go back with this yellow, kind of tannish blonde color later. On top of the yellow paper, I don't have to work super hard. Now you can use your finger to blend those in. If you don't want to have a dirty finger, well then I suggest using a Q-tip or a tissue. But the chalk just blends so nicely. It's so smooth. You don't have to work very hard. If you want to see more of those lines back, okay, then you can draw them back in. You can do lots and lots of layers. If you need to have some lighter color, pop some white in there, okay? Use some bright yellow if you need. But it needs to look realistic, so that's why you guys have mirrors, okay? Artists that do self-portraits, they're totally using mirrors all the time. So let's get real. I want to get the shape of my chin, and I don't think I left enough space. So I'm going to get that jawline going. Just gonna define that and add some shadow underneath. Make sure I show my neck in here. I'm using a brown to show shadow. I'm not using black for shadow. I'm gonna save black for the important parts, like in my eye. My eyes are brown, so I'm gonna make sure that's nice and dark inside. If you're using a white paper, you don't have to do the whites of your eyes. I'm not, so I'm just gonna brighten it up with a little white chalk in here. And that's where handy dandy Q-tips can come in. Now make sure you got a clean one, or you're gonna smudge everything that you got going on. And I know you don't want that. I have a darker side, so I'm gonna blend that in all the way so my dark brown eyes look nice and dark. And then I can put my pupil in. You decide how big you want your pupils and which direction you want to be looking in the picture today. Trying to keep an eye on my camera because the last video we did just stopped recording right in the middle. I'm gonna go ahead and put my twinkle in now. And on the tops of my eyelids, I'm gonna outline them with black because that's where my eyelashes are. And most of us have eyelashes that are pretty dark. And then you need to look and see where your eyelids are. And that's a line right above. I'm gonna start putting in my eyebrows because they're hair. I want to use nice little tiny brush strokes. I've got kind of lighter eyebrows that I have to darken up in the morning if I want to use makeup to help me out with that. It comes in very handy. I'm just going to go over the lines on my nose. And underneath my eyes, I might do a little black there too. And I'm spending some time on my eyes because I think that's really an important part. If you can get realistic eyes, your picture is going to look amazing. As I'm coming this, I'm noticing this all come together. I'm noticing I've got a little bit more forehead showing than I'm supposed to. So I'm going to add my bangs back in because I do have some shorter parts. And it's all about keeping an eye on just like the different parts. No matter how far you get in one day, the next day you come in to work on it, you'll see something that you missed. And it's okay to keep adding. And I like to pay attention really, you know, on the most important parts of your face, like your nose, you know, get the nostrils showing up, okay? You don't want to look like a little piggy, but you do have little breathing holes that help you look more human. And if you end up getting them too dark, like I had a little bit more black on that than I wanted, then you can adjust them. One thing that I did on my other paper is I used some pink because my skin does have a lot of rosiness to it. And on that purple paper, it was just hiding. You can use pink to brighten up, okay? I'm not loving how dirty my nose got, so I'm just gonna redo it. And remember, that's one of the awesome things about chalk. It's very forgiving. Kind of fix that. Oh, I'd used the wrong side of my chalk again. Silly little pastel. Totally tricked me. Okay. I'm not gonna use black for the nostril. So I'm not using the dirty side. I'm gonna use my cleaner side. Now I'm gonna get my lips drawn in. And you can decide what kind of smile you want. I want a closed mouth smile. That's usually my go-to. It's much easier than having to draw a bunch of teeth. I use a little pink and brown for that. And I'm gonna just blend it together. And now I'm looking more like a person. So you guys have to decide, you know, what kind of colors you're gonna need. This color here is kind of like a reddish brown, and it really brings some warmth in. It makes it nice and tan, so if you've been out in the sun all summer, well, you're gonna wanna use that color, okay? If you have a white most of you guys do, so you're using some newer chalk, you know, use that for your highlights. So get the colors on there that you see in the mirror. If something gets too dirty, just cover over it. It'll be great, don't worry. And every color that you choose, like if you started on a purple paper, it's gonna look completely different than the neighbor that you're working on. If they're working on a blue paper or an orange paper, it's all gonna have a different kind of feel, different kind of flavor to your self-portrait. Okay, so I'm gonna add details like I know I have a freckle here, I have freckles here. Be careful that you're not breaking my chalk when you're doing all that stuff. You know, get the other side of your face going. I'll put my handy dandy glasses on because I need to be able to see. And any of you guys with glasses, that's the last thing I would add, trust me. Okay, and I just kind of look right in the mirror, get my shape. My hair on this side is covering it, so I don't have to draw all of it, but it's up to you. So hopefully when you're finished, you've added lots of details. Boys, you don't have to have long flowing locks to have awesome hair. Just use your mirror, okay? And try not to get frustrated. Make sure that you have your name on this baby somewhere. On the back, we can go ahead and do our names. Okay, you guys are in 4th grade. Make sure that you do a 4. If you are in Mrs. Seeberger's 4th grade, I better see an S next to it. Whatever class you're in, that's the letter that you need to put for your teacher code. Okay, boys and girls? So I'm not gonna have you do a background because we picked our colors. They're gonna look amazing and fabulous. I know it. Can't wait to see them when I get back. Bye.